In the art of filmmaking, the story always comes first. Stories are an influence of past tales passed down for centuries. This very episode, for an example, was influenced by that last episode. Particularly when that cheapsteak slapped me back to the 1950s. You find that funny, eh? Well, I did this thing again. And you are still here. So who's really laughing now? Some world, according to Avery. Me. Kubrick, Nolan, Hitchcock. Whether you like them or not, they have made their impact on the film history and film industry as it is. For their exact unique technique and skills behind the camera, they have inspired many generations of rookie filmmakers like myself to find their inner, I guess you could say, signature. To help them find what makes them unique. And of course, in the world of filmmaking, everybody wants to be unique in a way. Whether it's camera-wise and how they shoot or the stories they tell. But that's where they get switched up, you know. The influence is an influence for a reason. The way how one story may influence the other is going to be like that for generations to come. Which is why, if you really want to look at it in a deeper perspective, stories are always often repeated. Think of it as such. In a book by Christopher Booker, ironically enough, in 2004, titled The 7 Basic Plots, he talks about how every story, every film book has 7 basic plots. There's no necessarily unique way of storytelling. But what makes it different is how you tell that story, is how do you portray it onto the screen. Influence is beyond important in the world of filmmaking. And we find influence in different ways, in different forms, in different lives, day to day. We may go down the street and see a kid on the street riding a bike. That might want to influence us to write something about a bike. Or we might see a homeless guy homeless guy on the street begging for some change. It might influence us to make a comeback story. But these 7 plots that Christopher Booker talks about kind of all fall into basic plots of how we tell stories as filmmakers or authors or just artists in the creative world. Christopher Booker talks about how some basic plots, as in Overcome the Monster, Rags to Riches, The Quest, Voyage and Return, and even comedy as some of the basic plots that he talks about in his book. Now, this is not an advertisement for his book because it came out damn near 17 years ago. But what this is it gives you, the viewer of this video, and me, a filmmaker, the knowledge of how should we go forward with creating stories and how do we even influence from these 7 basic plots. You see these 7 basic plots in every form of entertainment nowadays, whether it's music, film, art, just creatively. So what you really think about, when you really think about this, is it really 7 basic plots in storytelling, or is it 7 basic plots in entertainment? Because if it's 7 basic plots in entertainment, that goes way deeper. Like I said, we see these basic plots in film every day, entertainment every day, and it kind of forces us to be influenced by one another. It kind of forces us to be interested in what we see every day, and how do we tell a unique story on that. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, there's different ways on how to be unique in filmmaking. Stanley Kubrick did it the best. Christopher Nolan did it really great as well. But these are physical camera techniques that they have used. Now, I'm not crapping on those physical camera techniques, because those physical camera techniques is very important. You know, every part of the production is important to how you tell a story. One wrong camera movement or one wrong camera position could really have a huge impact on how that story is told. Even the colors in filmmaking could really mess up the whole thing. So you may ask yourself, is influence really that important? And the answer is yes. Like I said, influence comes in every which way and form, whether it's music, whether it's filmmaking, books, authors, we all have some type of influence. And influence ultimately also has a huge part in who we are as people. We are influenced by everything that we see in our daily lives. We're influenced by our elder brother or sister, family members, friends, things that we see, things that we are exposed to. And nowadays, influence has had not only the most impact on who we are as people of, well, the world. You know, we are more influenced by the things that we see on the internet or that we see other people doing quote unquote better than it really affects who we are and who should we live for. We let those influence allow us or to tell us to live for the other people, for everybody else except for ourselves. We forget to be independent. And well, if you want to be a filmmaker, if you want to be an artist, if you want to be creative, independence is very important. Being independent and being influenced are two different things. Influence is taking what you're seeing, taking it as your own, filtering it out, and becoming something more of it. Taking what it is and extracting all the bad that's in that influence. You know, being independent is understanding that that influence isn't you. That influence is what makes 1% of who you are, your personality. So going back to the influence, whether it's in filmmaking or creativity, influence is very important. So, in the art of filmmaking, whether it's a noir type of film, whether it's an action-packed Michael Bay film, or whether it's a melodramatic film, remind yourself that those films are influenced by one another, but they all tell a different story. And that's something to think about as a human being. We are all influenced by different things and different people, different ways of life. But individually, we all have different stories and we all tell different stories. So the influence really does matter. But honestly, that is just some world, according to me.